And welcome into the Monday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, sponsored by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you. Hope everybody had a fantabulous weekend. Joe Rexrode, how we doing? What's going on?
Doing okay. Had a nice weekend in Auburn, Alabama.
Yes.
As a matter of fact.
You got to watch two college basketball programs sit there and pick up giant stones to throw it at each other. It was fun.
Playing some great D, man. Just great D.
I did see like these comments from Bruce Pearl after the game of, yeah, we just got in the locker room. We just talked about how good Tennessee was. I couldn't believe it. It was just so good. All right.
I know he was like hugging Rick Barnes, like Rick, come here. Rick's like, all right, man, it's the handshake line. Rick, you're so awesome.
I'm just glad that his team didn't get into foul trouble. He screamed about that before, in which we've heard several times here on the show.
Yes, he did not melt down to that extent.
It's good. Keyser, how we doing? What's going on?
Hey, yeah, doing better than the referee that was on the line last night, trying to call that 1 centimeter off, huh?
It was, two very different spots on that play.
Well, there's the play right there. Yeah, that's a
very different spots. One of them was about a yard ahead of the other one.
Yeah,
like
stuff. I wouldn't expect that play to get overruled either way, but I think they got it wrong.
I do too.
I also think that the Bills score there, then the Chiefs come down and score, and the Chiefs beat them.
Probably.
Because the Chiefs are inevitable.
Yeah, apparently so. Joe, before we get involved with the conference championship games, I do want to wish you specifically a happy 4-year anniversary today. And today is the 4-year anniversary of Josh Heupel being hired by the University of Tennessee.
Is that right?
And us saying, Josh Heupel, huh? How about that? One of our great shows in the history of this program.
Yeah, that was we were dead on with that reaction. Holy cow. I'm sorry, but like my ears are doing like this psychedelic thing right now. This is so weird. That was one of we were absolutely dead on that program. Do we have any of that?
They could have hired Gus Malzahn and they hired Josh Heupel.
Yeah, Malzahn. I was big on what's his name from Indiana, who
he's no longer the coach.
Right.
Tom something?
God. I mean, he just was Penn State's defensive coordinator and just left them, I think, for Clemson, right? Tom Allen?
Tom Allen. That's it.
I was big on it. I was like, how could you not hire that guy? Yeah. Finger on the pulse of football.
That's what we do here.
Yeah.
That's what we do in this program. Shout out to Josh Heupel.
So obviously something came across.
Oh, I've looked at my Facebook memories and all it says on this day 4 years ago is Josh Heupel.
You put a post up and just put
put Josh Heupel. Great.
Which is also celebrating it.
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Sure. Happy anniversary, Joe.
Wow.
Good stuff.
Same
4 years
you.
ago today.
Yeah.
Thank you. What a wild conference championship weekend, at least in the Kansas City Buffalo part of this. Philadelphia sandblast the Washington Commanders, 55-23, the final. And Joe, I knew that Washington might be in some trouble when Saquon Barkley took the first carry of the game in the end zone. Thought that might be an omen of things to come. Philadelphia, just the roster is unbelievable. They forcing turnovers on defense. They ran for 229 yards as a team in that game. They put up 55 points. They win 55-23. Your quick thoughts on that game that was over with pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Lions screwed us out of what would have been an incredible day. If it was Eagles at Lions, that would have been a great game, and it probably could have gone either way. But the Lions biffed it. And again, credit to the Commanders. They played great last week. And actually, I thought Jaden Daniels was really good yesterday, but they kept fumbling. I mean,
yeah,
if you're gonna fumble, and yes, the Eagles get credit for forcing the fumbles, but like, come on, man,
hold on the ball.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna give them 3 extra possessions, you have no chance. And the Eagles look awfully good. I mean, there's Bradley Cooper. He's excited, very excited. They look really good. They finally got A.J. Brown going yesterday, which was good to see for them. I mean, they've got, those receivers are a little bit de-emphasized this year with what they do, but it's just such a great, they have everything you need.
Yeah.
And again, they have everything you need. They have a really good quarterback. They don't have Jalen Hurts is never going to be confused for Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, but he's a pretty darn good quarterback and football player. And their D is really good. So, I mean, you think about them earlier in the year, they looked a little shaky. Nick Sirianni looked a little shaky. There's your boy. There he is. He's pumped. But, man, did they turn around and just running the damn ball.
Yeah.
Works in football. It does. It works in football. It always will.
One of the things that's amazing, number one, their roster is unbelievable. But, like, they lost Nakobe Dean, pretty darn good player.
Yeah.
And then, like, Oren Burks comes in, shout out to Vanderbilt, and just – I mean, he looks like Nakobe Dean out there yesterday. It was like, oh, okay, that's fun. You just have Oren Burks coming in, making all these plays.
Yeah. I mean, they've been able to, they had shuffling on the offensive line too, and they've been able to make it work. So, I mean, look, I know a lot of people, and we'll get into this. I know there's fatigue about what's to come here, but I think I'm a little more excited than some people are.
I can pledge to you that I will not be watching.
Come on, you're not going to watch the Super Bowl?
No, I will. I actually know exactly where I'll be when the Super Bowl's on, and it will be in Central Florida at a certain spot. So I will not be watching. I guarantee you I will not be.
So it was already going to be like...
Oh, there was some flexibility involved if certain teams were involved. But now that I know who is involved, I guarantee you I will not be watching.
Wow. Okay.
Full disclosure, I'm not working the next week.
I was going to say the next day's going to be rough, man. So how about that Super Bowl?
I will not be in that day. That is week number 1 of the 2-week Predators hiatus.
So you're saying that I'm going to have to sit here with Kaharski and talk about this.
That's what I'm telling you.
Well, I'm
Congrats
not.
To you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not. I'm not. Look, I wanted the Bills to win. I mean, it would have been great to see the Commanders. It would have been weird, right? Like I love the stories that kind of come out of nowhere, kind of like the Bengals when they beat the Titans, and they actually they give the Rams a game, but the Commanders they shouldn't be ready yet, and you see with them. Their D's not very good.
It's really not.
And I watched that game. I'm like, if the Lions would have just, run the ball and not turn it over, they probably beat them, But Ben Johnson was too busy, flirting with the Bears.
apparently so. So then the nightcap, Kansas City wins 32-29 against the Buffalo Bills. I mean, look, the game itself, Joe, was – I think everything you could have wanted in that game and basically everything that it normally seems to be when these two teams meet up in the playoffs. The unfortunate part of that is the results are always the same. The stat heading into the game was in the last 4 regular season meetings, the Bills are 4-0 against Kansas City, and Kansas City was 3-0 in the playoffs. Well, you can now chalk that up to 4 in the playoffs against Josh Allen and the Bills. It was a great game. Buffalo had a chance on their last drive to drive down the field and at least tie it with the field goal and have a chance to go ahead. And the last play, Allen is running for his life and he heaves one up and goes right through the arms of Dalton Kincaid. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of people talking about the 4th down play today that was called short, that I think pretty clearly was not short by Josh Allen on that play that forced the turnover on downs. Buffalo was ahead 22-21 at that time. I don't know what they do if they pick up that first down. Do they kick a field goal? Do they turn it over? Do they go down and score a touchdown? I have no idea. But obviously that was a pretty huge moment in the game, and Kansas City goes down and scores right after that. But bottom line, Buffalo had a couple of chances there. They dropped that ball on the last drive and had a turnover when you couldn't have it in the game as well. And Kansas City, to your point earlier in the segment, just kind of feels inevitable. And here they are again in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm not really here today for officiating. I mean, that call, I think they got it wrong. But it's also let's just put a chip in the football at this point.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know how somebody brought this point up. The Australian Open's been going on in tennis, and they can tell you every blade of grass that the tennis ball's been on. Surely we can find something for a football.
I mean, you got a guy coming down this line from one side who I think had the spot right as a first down. You got a guy coming down this side who I think had it wrong. Both of them are looking at, 20 bodies.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not like it was blatantly he was a yard bad. I think he got it. You have to when you look at the replay, you have to project where the football is, but I think he got it.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's that. And I understand there's always talk about the Chiefs and officiating. The Chiefs, the Chiefs are just that game. The Bills really could. When the Bills got stops, it was like by mistake. The Bills defense, when they got stops, it was like, holy crap, they made a play on defense, and so I give them credit for fighting, but the Chiefs were just better, man. They're just better. Patrick Mahomes is just better than Josh Allen. And there's no shame. Josh Allen is great. Like, I feel bad for the guy because, again, he's done things to win these games and hasn't been rewarded. But I think you got to tip your cap to the Chiefs too here. It's I know we're all sick of them. I wanted them to lose. I think most of America wanted them to lose. It's an incredible story.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're possibly about to do something that's never been done in the NFL. And there's been a lot of teams that have been good enough to do it who couldn't do it.
Well, and again, Mahomes making plays with his feet, which seems to be something that happens every postseason. It's just, not that he doesn't run around in the regular season, but he takes it to a different level in the postseason.
And they take it to a different level in using it.
They do.
And the Bills seem so unprepared for that.
Yeah. Well, that rollout play to the right, it's like, well, you're giving him an option route, so there's that. But it's like, guys, they've done this for 7 years in a row. You got to find some better way to defend that than you found yesterday.
Yeah. And then, all of a sudden, Xavier Worthy's going to be awesome now. Okay, cool. I mean, they don't even.
That's the thing. Like, what did Travis Kelce end up with yesterday?
Like two catches
for 19
right?
yards.
Yeah. He was. And look, when you see when they showed some of the, like, the all 22 looks they were very much. That was part of the game plan for the Bills for sure. Was take him away, right?
Yep.
And I get it. I think that's smart. But now here you get whoever. Oh, Juju Smith-Schuster makes a huge play. Okay. I mean, seriously, what if Mahomes at some point, and I think Josh Allen needs this too, but what if Mahomes at some point, gets another, like, true number one receiver in the NFL?
Yeah.
What's going to happen then?
It's scary to think about. But here we are. This is now a chance for a three-peat for Kansas City. You have a guy in Patrick Mahomes that's still, I believe, now 7 years deep in his career, and the worst finish he's ever had is losing in overtime in a AFC title game, which he's done twice, which is just unbelievable. And here we are, Kansas City, Philadelphia in the Super Bowl. We'll take your reaction to Conference Championship weekend, your reaction to a classic last night between Kansas City and Buffalo, 615-737-1025. Our phone number. We'll have more on that coming up next. Some more Titans front office news to get to. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, taking your reaction to Conference Championship weekend in the NFL. The Super Bowl matchup is set, Philadelphia and Kansas City. Part 2, I guess, from a couple years ago. Taking your thoughts on that, 615-737-1025. Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Kenny the mailman. Kenny, good morning. Thanks for calling in. Hello, Kenny.
Listen, I got what I wanted. I was neither for the Chiefs or the Bills. I just wanted a good game. But what in the world does it take to get the official chain gang out on the field to measure, to show how short something is? An act of Congress? If you just think back to how few games you actually see them use them anymore. I mean, I love it when the official holds up the quarter-inch sign. And you know what? Jackson had a great season, one of the best quarterback seasons ever. Allen had it. But Mahomes, he is a true MVP. He'll do whatever it takes to win, whether throw for 190 yards, 300 yards, rush for 90 yards. I think he would even drop kick a ball to win the game. But what do y'all think about the old chain game?
Yep.
See y'all later.
Thanks, Kenny. Appreciate it. I was kind of stunned. I mean, at least maybe they brought it out there and they were too busy showing 1,000 replays. I don't know. But at least on the broadcast, I never saw the chain gang go out there.
You hardly ever see it anymore. He's right. You hardly ever see it anymore. Now, recently, I think in one of the college playoff games, there was a measurement. But, yeah, you hardly ever see it.
Bring back the chain gang.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe with this one, because it was clearly like that yard line, whatever that yard line was,
40-yard
maybe
line,
they didn't need it. Because it's like, well, it's short of the yard line. You know, I don't know. But still, yeah, I'm with Kenny. But, again, like stuff like this happens, and it really is like, I mean, it can't be that hard, can it? To do do it electronically.
I wouldn't think so. But again, like they also reviewed this play. That's the part that really kind of boggles my mind. Is like missing the call is one thing, and having two officials that are like that different in their spotting is one thing. But then you also got to review it, and to me, like it's pretty darn clear that he got to the 40-yard line. Like I don't think you have to take a huge leap of faith to see that Josh Allen was at the 40-yard line on that play.
Yeah. No, I mean, and even Sterator said he thought he got it, you know, by a third of the football. Very close. Very close. Usually spot calls don't get overturned, you know, and especially if
they don't, but usually you can't see where they are. Like he's at the 40. Like I don't really understand how that call was missed.
Yeah.
And I don't know that means Buffalo wins. I have no idea what Buffalo does after that. But it's a pretty enormous missed call at that spot in the game.
Yeah. No, it's tough. I mean, I wish that they would have got it right. And yeah, you know, what happens then? Well, what happens if, I mean, look, man, it's coaching malpractice yesterday.
Yeah.
Coaching
kick the extra
malpractice. And it happens all the damn time. Dan Quinn did the same thing. Didn't matter in that game. Great. You can tie up the game at 14-all midway through the second quarter. In a game, there's going to be a whole bunch more points. Dude, kick the freaking extra point. Take a free point. I understand the NFL. It's not like, you know, a total chip shot like in college anymore. But I mean, these are pro kickers. And then so you're chasing points. So if they would not have chased points, everything else goes the same, and I understand maybe it doesn't go the same, but if everything else goes the same, they just kicked the extra points yesterday, then the Chiefs don't go for 2 to go up 7. So the Chiefs are up 28-24 before the Bills come down and score. And then the Chiefs are tying the game with that field goal late, and the Bills have the last possession. I mean, just take 3 points. And it's amazing that these coaches can't figure this out.
It wasn't even like, at least from my perspective, it wasn't even like retrospective. When on the play where they jumped offside on the extra point and Buffalo made it and then made the decision, all right, well, we'll go for 2 here. I was like, no, because I know how this works with Kansas City. I was like, they're going to stop them on the 2-point conversion and you just take the point. And here they are.
Yeah.
They stopped it.
Yeah. I mean, and I get at least in that situation, like there's, you know, like
probability. Yeah.
Well, like something happened to convince them to do it. But yeah, man, it's just, then you're chasing and it's gambling. It's the equivalent of gambling. You're gambling points. Don't do it. And I don't know, I don't know if that ever got addressed after the game, but like it's a huge deal, a huge part of this game.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's also at this point, there's a psychological aspect to it when you're playing Kansas City. It's like the moment you get behind, I think a little bit of panic starts to set in where it's like, oh, we got to take advantage of every possible opportunity to get a point now we've got to do it because we just know what they have on the other side. I think there's some of that comes into play against the Chiefs for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I mean, the stat that they threw up there yesterday, which I guess has now moved to 17-0, they've won 17 in a row, one-score games. It's unbelievable in the NFL.
Right. That's the type of thing that usually there's a regression. Like we saw it with the Titans, actually. Part of that is that they just got worse as a team. But they had an incredible run in one-score games with Vrabel, and then all of a sudden they started losing those games. When are the Chiefs going to lose a game like that?
I don't know.
It's just a complete confidence that they're going to find a way, and that's the thing. Like I wish they got the call right on the spot. I don't think it would have mattered. I think the Chiefs are winning this game no matter what. Like, and I got to see it now to believe it when I see someone beat them in a close game.
Well, if you're a Titans fan, you say, you know what? Congratulations, Kansas City. But we got one of your guys now. We're going to start building towards this moving forward. I will say they're putting together an interesting front office here, Joe. They've apparently hired Dave Ziegler as an assistant GM. And now Reggie McKenzie coming in as a senior scout in the Titans organization as well. That was put out, I believe, in the middle of this game last night. In the middle of the game, Ian Rappaport put that out there. So Reggie McKenzie coming in a key scouting role, according to his sources.
He did interview for the GM job.
That's
right?
correct.
Reggie McKenzie did. Yeah. Well, what was the gig in Miami for him?
I don't know.
Yeah.
What
Well,
was he doing down
they're loading up. They're loading up.
Yeah.
So there's just more collaborators to collaborate here with the Titans. Look, it is
interesting.
It's a lot of,
Yeah.
it's experience. It's a lot of experience. Talking about two former GMs in the NFL who are in your front office now.
Yeah. By the way, people asking about like are the Titans going to end up getting the 4th round pick for D-Hop? I don't believe he met the qualifications in the regular season. So no, they will not.
No, he did not make it. So it's a 5th. So yes, D-Hop. D-Hop and AJ Brown.
One pass for 11 yards.
Yeah, he's just like, they don't even really need him, which is interesting. I thought he'd actually be really important, but D-Hop in the Super Bowl, AJ Brown in the Super Bowl, former Titans receivers.
And just the Super Bowl is littered with former Titans receivers out there. 615-737-1025. Our phone number. Will continue to take your reaction to Conference Championship weekend. Plus, Shedeur Sanders meeting with the Titans over the weekend and addressing the media. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. So, Joe, lots going on this weekend in the world of football. I had conference championship weekend. And then for the Titans' purposes, the East-West Shrine Bowl and the practices that come along with that. And more importantly, some opportunities for teams to get in front of some of these prospects and get to know them a little bit, get started on their draft prep. And with the Titans having the number 1 overall pick, a lot of headlines this weekend from the two quarterbacks, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. So let's start on the Sanders front. Sanders was there. Didn't really look like he was participating in anything this weekend, but he was there. And he met with the Tennessee Titans over the weekend. Apparently in this meeting, there's this nice big story up at TennesseeTitans.com that Jim Wyatt has put together. TD was there for all of this as well. And in this interview with the Titans, Deion Sanders FaceTimed Shedeur. Eventually the Titans said, hey, yeah, go ahead and answer that phone. So Titans hopped on there with Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders and had some big fun together. Shedeur Sanders talked about how he's been to Nashville before and he's heard really good things about the city, heard really good things about the Titans franchise. If he was drafted by the Titans, he would, quote, love it, and that he would be thankful if drafted by the Tennessee Titans. So Shedeur Sanders saying all the right things. And I will say I watched a lot of videos of his media availability this weekend, Joe. Very likable kid. Very much enjoy Shedeur Sanders. So I have no problem with any of that stuff. I started – there's a lot of buzz around Titans Twitter this weekend. Oh, Shedeur said he would like playing for the Titans. I was like,
whoa.
Breaking news. Shedeur Sanders would love being the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
There's a big shocker.
Now, we know that there have been quarterbacks who have not wanted to play. Like did Eli ever
Did they ever really say anything about it before it happened?
Like, basically what I'm getting at is, has a prospect ever said, I'd really like to avoid Jacksonville if possible?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I would absolutely love it. Yeah, I mean, that's what you're going to say. So they FaceTime Deion. Was Brian Callahan there?
I believe so. Yeah.
Deion's like, hey, Brian, I'm taking your job, buddy. What do you think? What do you think about that?
Hey, Brian, how long's your contract go?
Yeah.
What's that buyout look like for you?
Speaking of Brian, did he and Borgonzi, have they met each other yet? Did they get to know each other on the plane? Like, have they talked? Are they friends?
Who are you? Oh, you're the coach. Okay.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah. Now, yeah, it's that time. It's that time to get excited about the possibilities. I mean, look, when you have the number 1 pick, I mean, you're the team that, right? I mean, everybody who wants to go at the top of the draft has to consider you.
Sure.
Right? I mean, they would, I mean, and everyone wants to be the number 1 pick. There's something to being the number 1 overall pick.
Yep.
Along with being at the top of the rookie, salary scale. But so there's going to be a lot of this stuff. And interesting, there was also reporting around Sanders, not doing stuff, and like the Titans asked him, but then I think that was refuted, I believe. But multiple teams apparently, advised him or asked him or whatever, don't do anything.
I think you're going to see, we talked about this last year, like you're going to see more and more in that, I think, from the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
Yeah, at the top of the draft.
At the top of the draft. I mean,
these things are going to be for the guys who are trying to get there or get higher.
Well, and this is not even, this isn't even really like it's not your pro day. It's not your combine. Like, this is just, the East-West Shrine Bowl. Yeah. So like it doesn't mean that he's not going to throw at any point this offseason. Not necessarily, but like, we saw it from Caleb Williams last year. He just didn't do anything. And there's really no point. Like, what purpose would it have served him to do anything? Now, I don't think Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward are in that situation. Like, it's not, I think everybody knew when the season ended last year that Caleb Williams was going number 1 overall to the Bears. It is not that way with Shedeur and Cam.
Yeah, that'll be interesting, like at the combine, because I could see Shedeur not throwing, but Cam throwing, just because I think Cam has a more live arm than Shedeur. So I mean, if he wants to just separate himself or help himself in that comparison, he probably would help himself by throwing it. And Sanders may not, Again, the reason I like Sanders better is because I just think that he's accurate. And I think the ball's out fast. He's had terrible protection in college, but which conditions you to get the ball the heck out of your hands. But I just think he's accurate.
They
and
prepare him well here too.
I think, it's right.
Shador, we got some good news for you. It's a good thing you got used to getting the ball out quickly in college.
Basically be like him being in the same system. It's the, take a half a second and just throw it somewhere. But, I've liked him because of his accuracy. He doesn't have like a huge arm. Like I think Cam Ward can do some things, that are a little bit higher level, or at least maybe like, you'd think like higher ceiling or whatever. So, but that'll be interesting in terms of once we get to the combine. And in the meantime, a lot of hanging out, and doing some interviews, and
look, this is really the beginning process of what is going to be an exhaustive parsing of every comment and thought that people have, both in the Sanders camp and the Ward camp and the Titans camp over the next 3 months, right? Like there's a story up on TennesseeTitans.com. Brian Callahan was interviewed in this, and he's talking about and basically his first impression of Shedeur Sanders being really, really good and really getting along easy with it. And then I saw some articles spun off of that yesterday, Joe, and I was just looking at it. It's like, Titans Brian Callahan really happy with Shedeur Sanders. It's like, here we go. Like it's going to be this way for the next 3 months. So my general consensus on this is like, take public comments about draft prospects with a grain of salt from now until the draft.
They're going
to say all the right things, and whether they're legitimately interested in these prospects with the number 1 overall pick or not, they're going to make it seem like they are, so they have as much leverage as possible should they want to trade back. So I think you've always got to keep that in mind when it comes to the conversation around the draft.
Right. The Titans, whether anybody believes them or not, but they are going to publicly make it seem like they really like these quarterbacks.
Yes.
And maybe they do. Maybe
they very well could.
Maybe they don't.
Yeah, like it's not like everything is just lying this time of year, but like if they get through, let's say they get through their evaluation and it's like, well, we don't really think either one of these guys is worthy of the number 1 overall pick. Like, and until they trade out of that pick, you're not going to hear them publicly acknowledge that.
Yeah.
At least I don't think so.
Yeah.
That'd be tough.
That would be. Yeah, it's like the Titans are going to be like, like Collins be like, a little bit of an attitude. Didn't really. And then he took a bag of Doritos on his way out the door.
And his dad called into the FaceTime. Like, what is that?
Yeah, can we do Google Meet? I would be much more impressed with that. Yeah, I mean, they're going to, you're right. It's going to be exhausting because it's clicks, man.
Well, and it's like for Titans fans, like it's cool for your team to be at the center of that, right? Like your team is going to be a big part of what drives that conversation over the next 3 months.
Your team sucking to the extent they did means they will be talked about way more.
They will
in the next few months than they would have otherwise.
Yes.
Mike from PA says the Sanders family don't care about the Titans. They want Shedeur to be picked number 1 no matter who is big. Well, yeah, Mike. I mean, that's pretty much true of any family and any team in this situation. I suppose every once in a while you might have some, I grew up a Cowboys fan, and but I mean, that's exactly what it's business on both sides.
Well, I don't expect the Sanders family to care about the Titans right now. Like now, if they get drafted by the Titans, then okay.
I would also expect anybody to want to be the number 1 pick. Yeah. I'd love to be.
Right. Exactly. I mean, look, I think, the interesting part of all, when you kind of sift through all the stuff with Shedeur over the weekend, like, TD and him had an interesting back and forth, like about his dad and how that could be viewed by some other teams. And I thought Shadeur's answer to that was really good, which was basically like, I don't know why having supportive parents is a bad thing. Like, I don't know when that turned into a bad thing. So I thought that was a really good answer by Shedeur. And I he also called himself like the most guaranteed risk in the draft. So like, I thought that's interesting too. Like, he feels obviously very confident about his ability.
Yeah. And it was a good answer by him. The response back to me would be like, well, sure. But your dad has influence
Yes.
that other parents don't have. Your dad is a public figure like other parents. That's the difference. Your dad's in football coaching, and was a great player. I mean, like that's why we're talking about it, right?
Your dad was
normally no one ever talks about anybody's parents in pro sports.
Right. Like your dad was theoretically up for consideration for the Cowboys job. Apparently.
Yeah. Until Brian Schottenheimer just was shot. He shot up the list. Good job, Jerry.
That Brian Schottenheimer. Oh, Keezer's giving you a thumbs down.
On that pun. You don't like that pun?
Pretty good.
It's a 6 o'clock hour.
Let's head back to our 1025 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Jared in Spring Hill. Jared, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Good morning. Hope all y'all had a great weekend.
You too.
Robbie, real quick, I don't want to take away from football, but real quick, I just want to, I have an 8-month-old. And, when those Preg games are on at late at night, man, you really do a great job of keeping me entertained and awake.
Thanks, man.
While putting the baby back to sleep. So I just want to give you your props, man. You work hard. It was like 12 o'clock in the morning still going. So
thank you.
Back to football. With the Shedeur stuff, it's almost gut-wrenching, like watching the games last night and then immediately snapping back into reality on a Monday that we are so far behind, and yet here we are just getting teased. And it just seems like, the knife going across the stomach even more as we lead up to this draft, because we're not really going to know until then. And again, I've said on here plenty of times about what I would do, but I just, as much as I like Shedeur, again, he's 74% accurate. It's a lot of baggage to bring him in, which is, again, why I said bring in Dion too. But I think that if you do that, it's just going to be a lot of pressure on Callahan to really work out more teams. It's going to be there's just going to be a lot of off the field stuff, and I don't know if Callahan, our coaching staff, is going to be able to kind of reel it all in. And then y'all were talking about we gotta, as a Titans organization, gotta really let other people into the fact that we're into Shedeur and can to drive up that price. Well, do you trust them to be that savvy? Because the last couple of drafts really have kind of been sloppy, and a lot of, the CJ Stroud, that word got out and that kind of stuff. Now, again, Rams not here anymore, but there are some intangibles. So do you think they're capable of being savvy and driving up the leverage price, or are we just going to sit and pick and wait to see how that goes? Guys, have a great day.
Thank you, Jared. Appreciate it. A couple things on that, Joe. Number one, the pressure part of it for Callahan, he can't escape that at this point. The pressure is what it is. You just went 3-14. You're going to have a new quarterback next year. There's pressure to produce, or he's going to be out of a job. That is what it is at this point. So I don't think you can really escape that if you're Brian Callahan. As far as the savviness of the front office, I don't know. I would think so. With Brinker in, Borgonzi has a lot of experience in the draft part of this, and now they've just brought in Reggie McKenzie as well. They've got a pretty experienced front office right now. So they know how the game is played in the draft. And look, the bottom line is you and I sitting here today have no idea how the Titans feel about these prospects. They may get through it and legitimately love a Shedeur Sanders or a Cam Ward and then just pick them at that point.
Yeah. I have a thought on that and on Dion that I'd like to get to.
We'll do that coming up next. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Nick Suss from the Tennessean will be with us at 7 o'clock. We'll get into all things Tennessee Titans with him as well. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, sponsored by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Nick Suss from the Tennessean will join us at 7 o'clock. We'll get into all things Tennessee Titans with him. Taking your thoughts on Shedeur Sanders, 615-737-1025. Joe, you had a thought you wanted to get to on the Deion front that Jared from Spring Hill just brought up.
Well, yes. But first, to follow up your point there, do the Titans have enough savvy? I think the bigger question, I mean, they're going to do what you do, right? I don't know. There's always the backhanded stuff and the misinformation that you see sometimes. Again, I think the Will Levis stuff is a good example of that getting out of control. But it's still more important is there another team that just really wants one of those guys if you don't,
Yep.
I mean, and no matter what you do, you can say whatever you want. It comes down to their evaluation of the player way more than whatever, posturing you may do. As far as Deion, I've said this before, probably will say it again. This probably is worth like 2 rants between now and the draft. But again, the whole baggage or coming with it. I mean, if I'm if I'm the Titans right now and I'm looking at Shedeur Sanders, I understand that it could get annoying with Deion. Like if Shedeur struggles and all of a sudden Deion's kind of like, I wish he got better coaching or whatever. But that can't be a factor in this at all.
No,
right?
No.
And I just feel like there's a lot of chatter, and I think largely from Titans fans that I've seen, where it's like, man, I just don't know. Like that would be like on the cons list. It would Deion. I don't think it's on the list at all. I just don't. I mean, yeah, it could be annoying, but like Deion Sanders, it's the NFL, man. It's the NFL. And so you're going to perform and keep your job and get huge money, or you're not. You're going to lose your, Deion complaining about it publicly will bring a new element to it. And so you'll have to answer with that in the media and people will ask you about it.
I'm sure we'll talk about it.
Sure. But that's not a reason to take or not take a prospect. It's about whether you can play quarterback at a high level. And that's all it is.
Well, and same thing with Ward. Ward doesn't have all the Deion stuff, obviously. But can he play? Do you feel like he can be your franchise quarterback? That's what it boils down to. If you do, then I don't really care about any of the other stuff, to be honest with you. I don't care about the Deion stuff. I don't care about anything else. If you feel like Cam Ward and or Shedeur Sanders are good enough to be a quarterback that you can win with and you can be competing against Allen and Mahomes at some point with, then you take them. It's as simple as that. If you don't, then you don't.
Yeah. If the Titans brass, it's just a growing list of cooks in the kitchen. They all get together and like, yeah, Shadeur's the guy. He's amazing. But that Deion, I don't know. Then fire them all right there. Fire them all on the spot. And it won't happen because, it's just ridiculous if you really think about it.
They leaned into it, apparently. I mean, look, they told him.
Maybe it's on the
pick
pros.
Up the FaceTime. Pick it up. Let's talk.
It's on the pro side. Maybe it's like, hey, maybe Deion could be the special teams coach someday. Although they just hired a special teams coach. By the way,
got a deep special team staff.
Colt Anderson, we still have.
He still haven't been fired. I don't know what's going on there.
Absolutely weird.
I don't know what's going on there.
So no one gets fired. They just add. They just add people.
It's going to be the
most other than Rand and Anthony Robinson. Those guys get fired. Other than that, sorry, Rand. Just add to the organization.
Going to be the deepest pool of resources this group has ever had together.
Well, in all seriousness on that, Amy's spending money.
She is.
Say what you will, and we do. But she is clearly not afraid to break out the checkbook right now. I mean, I don't think Dave Ziegler, I know it went very poorly for him in his very brief stint as a GM, but I wouldn't think he'd come that cheap. There's some investment.
Well, again,
and there's some paying of people who don't work for you anymore still. But I guess Vrabel did come off the books.
Vrabel came off the books, freed up a lot of cash.
Yeah.
It's like, I got all this money now. I can go pay all these people, come in and do all these different assistant GM jobs. Look, I don't think it's a bad thing to have all these guys in here that have the experience that they do. Like, bringing Reggie McKenzie in, we talked about it when he was interviewing for the GM job. Like, there's some experience there that you like. Clearly, McKenzie and Brinker have a history, so that's good. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I am interested to see like how it all kind of fits together and what that's going to lead to from a scouting standpoint. And again, it goes back to also this whole conversation with Sanders and Ward and all these things. Like, they've also publicly stated that they'd love to have, 30 picks in the next 3 years and all these top 100 picks.
12 in the
Like,
top
how
100.
do it's hard to get there without trading back from this pick in the draft.
I don't think it's possible. I mean, I get you just trade back constantly with all these other, but you're not getting that many top 100 picks. If they're going to do that, they're moving number one.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that people have brought up trading Jeffrey Simmons. Well, trading Jeffrey Simmons is not getting you that much back.
Apparently, Jeffrey Simmons congratulating people going to the
I saw
Patriots
that.
is now evidence that Jeffrey Simmons is trying to.
He wants out.
Yeah, he wants to go to New England.
Yeah. Look, I can't tell you whether or not Jeffrey Simmons wants to go to New England at all, but I did see him tweet about that after. He's like, yeah, I'm just congratulating people, guys.
Yeah.
Tighten up.
I mean, I got to be on his side on this one.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Simmons on social media sometimes doesn't go well, but this one was like, I saw the tweet. It was just like, oh, man, that's awesome.
Way to go.
Congrats.
Yeah.
How dare you, Jeff?
But like I said a couple weeks ago, it's always something with him on Twitter.
Yeah.
This one's not his fault.
Yeah, I mean, it is always something. Congratulating someone should be still allowed. But I guess it's kind of like, it's like when my guy Draymond, just accidentally brushes against someone. Well, no, he must be a flagrant, right?
I agree. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Nick Suss will join us coming up next. We'll get into the draft process, all things Tennessee Titans with him. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, sponsored by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you on this Monday morning, talking all things Tennessee Titans. And to help us do that, we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Nick Suss, who does a great job for the Tennessean, covering all things Titans. Nick, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm well. How are y'all?
Doing great, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. So, Nick, it's been a very busy couple of weeks here. The hiring of Mike Borgonzi as general manager, and now some more pieces under him starting to come into the fold over the weekend, including apparently Reggie McKenzie that Ian Rappaport put out there last night. But what do you make of the Borgonzi hire and now the pieces that have started to fall in place at assistant general manager and some scouting spots underneath it?
Yeah, I mean, it all falls into the question of, have the Titans gotten better in the last 3 weeks or so? And I tend to think the answer is yes. Obviously, there's no way of knowing until we actually see this all work out, because this comes down to a question of, these guys all say the Titans are going to be better because they believe they are the people who are going to get the right pieces in. And, well, everybody who gets these jobs is going to believe that. So kind of have to take it at value of, they have the right philosophies and they have the right tactics and all these things. And I will buy it for now. I do tend to think that the strategies they are advocating for are the right kind of ones to set a team that went 3-14 back on track toward having a viable, strong enough roster. But obviously, there's a reason that people don't get second chances at being a GM all too often in the NFL. It's a hard job. And so we will see if these are the right people to do it. Obviously, no way of knowing until they've actually done it.
Nick, do you feel any differently about the GM role since they named Borgonzi, and you've heard Borgonzi talk about it, Mike Borgonzi talk about it, than you did before, like in the interim there when Rand Carthon was fired? And I mean, I know that I was making a lot of assistant to the regional manager jokes here on this program, but do you feel like it's, I guess, more of a quote unquote real GM job than maybe you did before?
I mean, I can tell you frankly that I never cared. As long as somebody is making the decision, I've never really understood why people were so utterly fascinated by who defers to who. I do think this is more of a real GM job in the sense that if you're the one who is setting the agenda, then everything is going to filter through that agenda. So I do think that is probably what matters most. And frankly, I've never really understood the concept of who the ties would be between. So I do think that it will just be Borgonzi making the decisions. And if there's something being vetoed, it's for, I can't come to the understanding of why that would happen. But yeah, I do think that he being Borgonzi is going to be the one who is leading the way. And that's probably what matters more than somebody having the ability to veto that. I don't know. If it matters, then we will see. But I have a feeling this is much more of a January story than it will be a September story.
Nick, on that front, I mean, obviously you're talking about the number 1 overall pick. There's Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, that are going to be available to the Titans, and then we'll see how they view those guys. As we sit here today on January 27th, how do you view what the plan at quarterback right now should be? Do you view it more through the eyes of maybe bringing in a veteran and going that route and, trying to trade down and build up some other parts of your roster? Do you look at Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward and say, I think the Titans would be really, really good if they could draft one of these guys? How do you view quarterback as we sit here today?
Now, with the many, many caveats here that people do not pay me to make football decisions, I would say that I tend to lean towards draft the quarterback last. I am not a guy who believes in starting the rebuild with a quarterback unless it is as close to surefire situation as possible. And being a guy who will admit I have not poured over hours and hours of tape, just watching college football, I don't necessarily think these guys are surefire. I think they are intriguing prospects. I think both Ward and Sanders will develop into being solid NFL starters, but I don't necessarily believe that solid starter is the kind of guy you should pass up the opportunity to build an entire roster for. And if you believe that you can trade back once or twice in this first round and get 5 or 6 extra top 120 picks or something like that for the value, I'd be in favor of trading back twice. I'd be in favor of getting as many picks as you can and banking on the fact that next year there are probably going to be more quarterbacks going in the first round. That doesn't mean they'll be better. I'm not guaranteeing right now that the class will be better, because we fall into that trap every year of, oh, trust me, next year's a great year. Next year's a great year. But I do think there's going to be more options to fall in love with next year. And the way I look at it, if you go with a bridge quarterback this year, let's just use the name Derek Carr to get nobody excited. If you go with Derek Carr and you stink, you traded back, you have 2 first-round picks, you can leverage that to go get who you want. If you go with Derek Carr and you're all right, you got 2 first-round picks, use those the way the Lions did 2 years ago, or the way other teams have, of now you filled a little bit of holes on your roster and you can compete. I do think both of those are better options than try Shedeur Sanders or try Cam Ward and see how well they develop, and you're still probably 2 years away, than just, well, yeah, you got a quarterback, woohoo. I don't know if I'm making sense. It's early for me, but either way, I tend to think that having the more picks next year is the better idea.
No, that does make sense. You mentioned Derek Carr, who, and you're right, not very exciting. There's really not a name that would be terribly exciting. But if you had a pick of these, because I've thrown out Justin Fields and then taken a lot of crap for it. But if you had your pick of the realistic options, who would it be?
If Stafford counts, Stafford is number one, but I don't think that's realistic. I like the idea of Carr because of his experience with Callahan. If there's somebody who I'm projecting ahead on, I think I would lean Zach Wilson, just to let him compete with Levis and see what these two guys who have kind of struggled before could be. But I don't know. It's not necessarily the best feeling.
So you want Brian Callahan fired, is what you're telling me?
Again, there's not a good option here.
There is not.
But if I wrote this a couple of weeks ago, if people want to dig up the archives, I ranked the 27 best options from, who did I have last on the list? Dylan Gabriel, maybe, all the way up to if Stafford or Dak Prescott actually comes available, which I don't necessarily believe is an option anymore. But after you get past option 4, nothing feels great.
No, there's no doubt about that. I do want to get your thoughts on where the Titans are right now from an edge rusher standpoint, because, Abdul Carter is going to be an option for them. We'll see, how that all ends up shaking out. But you've got on the roster right now Arden Key, who has been, a fine, serviceable piece, but is not, been overly productive getting after the quarterback. Harold Landry has been productive, but is starting to get up there, and he coming off the major injury a couple years ago. So how do you view how much work needs to be done from the Titans as it relates to their pass rush this offseason?
Yeah, I will put it this way. I'm pretty sure I had a mock draft go up online this morning where I had the Titans trading back in the first round, using their first-round pick on Mykal Williams and using their second-round pick on JT Tuiomaloau. I am totally fine if this team doubles up and drafts edge rushers back-to-back rounds to start the draft. I think it's that big of a need, and I think it's that important of a need in the NFL. I've probably joked this on your show before, but I think there are 5 things that matter in the NFL: throwing the football, protecting the guy who throws the football, catching the football from the guy who throws it, rushing the guy who throws the football, and defending the guy who throws the football. They can do the other 4 moderately okay at this point. If you go get a veteran quarterback and veteran right tackle, I just don't think you're going to spend to get the kind of value you need at edge rusher. I think that if you're making a list of the 10 best edge rushers in the NFL, you're probably going to end up with a list of 8 guys who were picked in the top 10, and then TJ Watt, who was a mid-first round pick, and Max Crosby, who they hit in the 3rd or 4th round. The value at that position almost always comes near the top of the draft. And if you want to start actually affecting quarterbacks in a way that the teams with the best pass rushes do, that's the easiest position to project. You look at the guy who's big and strong and fast and say, oh, yeah, he'll be able to rush the passer. So if it's Abdul Carter, or if it's Michael Williams, or if it's James Pierce, or whoever it ends up being that you fall in love with as a pass rusher, go get him. Like, that's why guys like Myles Garrett and guys like Nick Bosa can actually compete to be the number 1 pick with quarterbacks, because it's not just a super important position, but it's usually a fairly easy position to look at and say, oh yeah, that's going to translate.
Is there a right tackle that they can get and be? Is there a right tackle that they can get and be reasonable this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's all gradient. There are guys who are going to be improvements. I don't know if there's anybody who they're going to look at and say, oh, top 10 right tackle, this is perfectly solidified. But if the gauge is, can the right tackle position improve in 25 as much as the left tackle position improved in 24? I do think the answer is yes. Whether it's try on somebody like Trent Brown or Jedrick Wills or whoever it is that will be higher money on the totem pole, or whether it's kind of Patrick McCarry, is he a free agent from Baltimore? There are going to be some options there, and then you go in the 3rd or 4th round, draft a developmental project if you can get a draft pick back, kind of compete your way between veteran and young guy. I do think that's viable. It's not going to be a perfect fix, because teams with multiple holes don't get 5 top 5 picks to do it. But if you're prioritizing between edge rush and right tackle, I'll probably get excoriated for it. I still prioritize the edge rush.
I think I'm with you. Nick, great stuff, man. Really appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks, Phil.
Absolutely. Nick Suss from the Tennessean does an outstanding job covering the Tennessee Titans. We'll react to what Nick had to say coming up next. Vanderbilt takes down Kentucky over the weekend. Tennessee loses in a rock fight at Auburn. We'll get to that later this hour as well. Corey Curtis will be at 8 o'clock. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Nashville's best deal this week, Single Tree Barbecue in Murfreesboro. Single Tree Barbecue, a local veteran-owned and operated business, only serving world-class barbecue with the perfect combinations of sides and desserts. Get half off a $25 gift card now while supplies last at thegamenashville.com/deals. Appreciate Nick Suss for being with us in the last segment. Nick Suss, pretty big believer in edge rusher being a massive need and of massive importance for the Titans this offseason, and said he wouldn't mind it if they went back-to-back, round 1, round 2, with edge rusher. What do you think of that?
Well, and it's a very good point by him in terms of that position and the correlation between picking that position high and success, which is it's not like that at every position, but it's a very good point. It does seem like it's a pretty good hit rate on, like some guys. I mean, like Travon Walker has not been number 1 pick caliber player, but of course that's the Jacksonville Jaguars. But for the most part, it seems like, and this would be something worth going back through the last few drafts, 10 drafts or whatever, but those guys who go high at that position at least turn out to be like Aiden Hutchinson. I actually didn't think he'd be as good as he's been in the NFL. Obviously, Parsons is just, he's insanely good. Yep. And Abdul Carter looks like a dude, man. He looks like a dude for sure. I still think that James Pierce, even though he's kind of mocked a lot of people around high teens, 20 or so, I still think that guy has a lot of juice and he's going to be a good player in the NFL. So no, I'm with that. You help yourself so much when you have guys like that. And if you have multiple guys, if you can force teams to help or to have to think about helping on both sides of the offensive line, it's just such an advantage and it helps your secondary so much. They're needy in so many spots, but I don't know if he's getting excoriated for it, but it might have been a little dismissive of right tackle. I don't think that they moderately well protect the quarterback. I would disagree with Nick on that. I don't think they do that moderately well. I think they do that terribly.
I would agree with that. Look, I also would agree that if you're looking for improvement at right tackle next year, I think that it shouldn't be that difficult to find. Like you should be able to go out in free agency. And I realize that there's not going to be a bevy of talent at right tackle in free agency because it just doesn't happen much in the NFL. But like improvement over Nicholas Petit-Frere and substantial improvement over Nicholas Petit-Frere, you would hope they would be able to find that this offseason.
Yeah. Yes.
If not,
but it's kind of like
we got a big problem next year.
Right. But that's kind of like the discussion about like Levis, right? It's like, well, he's way better than he was at the beginning. Right. Can you get a good player, good-ish player?
Yeah.
You could be significantly better than him and still be pretty bad.
I would agree. But then that is the question, like, can you get a legitimately good player? I don't know the answer to that. Like, is there a plug-and-play right tackle that you can find in this draft that you're obviously not going to pick at number 1 overall that you can find that can be a good player for you next year? I don't know.
And is there any internal, because I've heard Trevor Maddich say this on Stilley's show, any internal discussion about, you know what? Latham actually would be better at right tackle. So let's spend a significant choice on a left tackle.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if the Titans in April, they say, hey, we got a trade to announce. Tennessee Titans have traded back to 7. And with that pick at number 7, they're taking a left tackle.
That'd be very high to take any tackle in the draft.
I know.
Now, if they trade back and they get a bunch of picks and they get another second or something and they take someone there,
I would assume
that would be good,
potentially.
But yes, if that were the case,
Titans fans would be like, oh, no, here we go again.
It does get boring drafting linemen all the time.
It does. Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Adam in Portland. Adam, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
You guys are freaking me out. Like, I just hope nobody's listening when you go, I think we should get a defensive end. He's going to be a great player. We can't score over 30. We scored over 30 like 3 times in 4 years. It's insane. And we're going to talk about spending the top pick on a DN. I'm not saying you're the only person saying it, dude, and I know y'all know what you're talking about, but my God, like if we can't find somebody who can help us score points, what are we doing? Like it has to be if you're going to do that, you have to have the best free agency period in the history of the Titans in order to do that. And I don't trust anybody on this team, personnel-wise, to be able to do that. So you got to draft Hunter or Sanders or one of these dudes who could score points. If not, then it's going to be same old crap. So, yeah, get an awesome defensive end and bring him in here for a team who can't score. And hopefully we'll beat people 9-6. I mean, I don't know what else to say, dude.
Thanks to call, Adam. Adam, not a huge fan of the idea of edge rusher.
I mean, Adam, your team went 3-14. So if you think they're going to fix everything this offseason, I understand what you're saying in general, and we've talked about it. It's like, well, gosh, sucking is one thing. Sucking and not scoring is a worse thing. But if you take the best football player, and if Abdul Carter is that level of star, then you do that. You could score points with pretty good quarterbacking, pretty good offensive line play. You've got a good back. You got decent, you add a receiver. I mean, you could all of a sudden actually score some points.
I mean,
I like the idea of like, well, this team is so bad offensively, you have to take the quarterback. Again, that's how the bad franchises stay bad.
I mean, Suss brought up an idea at quarterback that I'll admit I had not spent a ton of time thinking about. The Zach Wilson, Will Levis combo at camp could be electric.
Oh, my gosh. What an absolute battle that would be, I mean,
that's the first time that I've thought about that combo.
Rocky against Drago. My goodness.
And, I thought I really wanted the Deion Sanders as coach versus PK in the press conference every week. I think I might want the Zach Wilson, Will Levis combo at quarterback even more. It'd be awesome.
I mean, who would win? Who knows? It would be back and I'm sure it would be close.
Until the bars around here. Watch out. Zach Wilson's in town. He's looking for some older women.
Oh, boy. You had to say it.
It's pretty well documented.
Well, it is.
615.
We have people of all ages here in Nashville.
1025. Our phone number. We'll continue to take your thoughts on the Titans. The Rob rant coming up at 7:45. Corey Curtis will be with us at 8 o'clock. Vanderbilt takes down Kentucky for a second huge win for them in the span of a week. And the Vols lose a tough one on the road in Auburn. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Robby and Rexrode, sponsored by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line. Welcome in Mike to the program. Mike, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, good morning, guys. I appreciate you taking my call. I just wanted to disagree a little bit with that caller, Adam, I think his name was, who was kind of giving y'all a hard time about he wanted to draft Shedeur or Travis Hunter. We've got so many holes. We need to build this team from the trenches out. We don't have an offensive line that can keep a quarterback upright long enough to stay in the pocket or not get sacked before we get a guy that becomes open, unless they're throwing like just passes out in the flat or they're handing the ball off. And even then you can't get a hole to let Tony Pollard run through it. So you got to get an offensive line short up. I'm totally cool with taking Abdul Carter on defensive end because you got to do the same thing on the other side of the ball. If you can't put pressure on the quarterback, then you got all the time in the world to shred up the secondary. So I'm cool with Abdul Carter, and I'm cool with trading the pick to maybe get some more picks. But Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, neither one of those guys are the answer for us. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate the call. So, Mike, a little bit of that Philadelphia Eagles football, big boy football, building up on the line, getting after the quarterback. That's the way to go.
Yeah, I generally agree with Mike. I mean, but the only thing I disagree with is like you need great players. You know, I think I like that as a philosophy. So I'm
as many of them as possible.
So like the idea that you just dismiss Hunter, like if you think he's a great player at his position, that's, you need those guys too. You need skill guys too.
Yep.
But I mean, it's always a line of scrimmage game. And yes, if you think Abdul Carter is a great player, you have a chance to get him. Yeah, you need to score, but get a great player and keep building. And again, there's just a lot of work to do with this team. So good call, Mike. But you're cutting into my very rare basketball segment. Robby's letting me have a basketball segment, for crying out loud.
I am. Let's start with Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt, 74-69 winner against Kentucky over the weekend. A week after, they took down Tennessee at home as well. So, Joe, back-to-back huge wins for Vanderbilt against Tennessee and Kentucky at home. Back-to-back court stormings as well. So you've got that to contend with. There's this video going around and picture going around like Kansas Story League.
Yeah.
Hey guys, please let's use some of this money for NIL.
Yeah,
we can have better teams.
It was worth a shot.
Did not work.
It was worth
the court
a shot.
was stormed. But how about the job that Mark Byington is doing with the Vanderbilt Commodores? That's two massive wins for that program. The most recent being against the old Kentucky Wildcats.
Yeah, huge wins. I mean, the fact that you go back-to-back weekends, beat Tennessee and Kentucky, and that with in both cases, great atmospheres, but also tons of the other, as always. Kentucky travels here. Tennessee always, puts a lot of orange in there to win both those games. Just enormous for him. You want to talk about a job, and you mentioned Candace, and that was pretty funny. And trust me, Candace, it was worth a shot, because they just got hit with $500K. It's their third one. They go up. So I think it's $800K now. But believe me, she'll, it's like worth a shot, but it's not like the end of the world.
They're gonna be standing arm in arm in the next game, like, please do not rush the court.
That's the thing. It's like, I don't know. I guess, Auburn does come. Auburn comes.
Yeah.
What if they're number one and they beat them? My goodness, watch out. But talk about the job, to take it a little bit bigger picture real quick. I mean, Candace Lee hired Byington, but also she hired Shea Ralph, who has someone who I think is going to be National Player of the Year, Michaela Blakes. Like, she's going to be National Player of the Year before her career is done at Vanderbilt. Like, she's that good. They just won at Bama yesterday. So those two programs those look like fantastic hires. It's early still for Byington. I think with Ralph, we see she is – like, they're going to be like a good team that can win NCAA tournament games this year. And they have this new basketball facility over there now. Like, it's all looking great. So look, this Vanderbilt team is so much. I didn't think this team would be that good. It was totally from scratch, some good guys that you brought in. But the fact that he was able to put a team together that seems to mesh so well and play so well together and be better than the sum of its parts is that's a good sign for the coaching.
Was Jelly Roll there on Saturday, or was he just there for Tennessee and Vanderbilt? Vanderbilt?
I don't know. I haven't seen any Jelly Roll videos.
I haven't either.
So maybe the Tennessee fans got mad at him enough that he's like, I'm just going to sit this one out.
Man, Vols fans were mad about that.
And maybe Kentucky fans would probably get mad at him too. They probably thought he was a Kentucky fan. Alabama football, Kentucky basketball. I know
Yeah.
Jelly Roll would never be a bandwagon
No,
like that.
why would you do that? Speaking of the Vols, you were there for what I would describe as a rock fight between Tennessee and Auburn. I was here doing the Predators and the Ducks in studio and had the Tennessee-Auburn game up. I will say, I've watched Tennessee. I saw them hit a buzzer beater against, I think, Illinois earlier in the year. I was watching that game, so that was fun. I watched Tennessee and Florida, and then I watched Tennessee and Auburn. Not very good shooting luck when I've been watching the Tennessee Vols so far this year. Tell your thoughts.
I know, and I hate it because then you rip college basketball and say college basketball sucks and the NBA is much better and all this stuff. And look, I mean, it's a higher level of play, no doubt. It's not always like this, man. Like you got to actually watch Michelle Perry's squad. You know, they're gonna like often give up 90 and score 90 and get into games.
Yeah, but I have to
that.
listen to her talk about it enough. So
the weird thing about the Tennessee Auburn thing is, yes, it was the other night. You basically got to the point. It was a great atmosphere and all that stuff, and it was a great game in terms of it was very competitive, super
came down the end,
intense, came down the end. But it did get to the point where, like, late in the first half, you're just like, they're just gonna all miss their shots.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of them were contested and good defense, but there were plenty of shots that. I mean, Auburn is one of the best shooting teams in the country. Tennessee, best three-point defense in the country, but it was ugly. But last year, these two teams played in Knoxville, and it was 92-84.
Yep.
And so Janai Broome dominated that game. Dalton Knecht went nuts. I think he scored like 20 straight or something, like 39. So very different game. Would have been huge for the Vols. I mean, you get that win, and your resume is like, I mean, you are like when it comes down to picking one seeds, your resume is awfully strong. Tough loss for them, and there was some officiating stuff, but I mean, I think that both teams got hosed. I think that was a Broome foul that with the walk on Akpara, which of course Rick Barnes spiking his drink in that moment. But just a tough loss for the Vols because it would have been a steal. Because I think Auburn has a higher ceiling than Tennessee. I think Auburn's the best team. They have depth. They have everything you need to be great. And Janai Broome was not healthy, and he still basically dominated the game. In Tennessee, I worry about Zakai Ziegler. He's such a great player. He's incredible, man. And they put everything on his shoulders. He played like 39 minutes and 33 seconds the other night. He can't take him out of a game. And they're in this league when every night's huge. They got Kentucky coming in tomorrow.
Yep.
And it's a good team. But their lack of depth, I think, it concerns me about where things are going to go here by the time you get to March.
I would agree. I think there's way too much on Ziegler. And look, I love Zakai Ziegler. I don't know that like Zakai Ziegler being your go-to scoring option when you need a bucket is the best plan. Like, I mean, they drew up the play for him the other night. He took the shot at the game winner three, he missed it. I mean, I understand he's been around a while. He's a great player, but like they don't have Dalton Knecht walking through the door. Like I know some people earlier in the year were trying to draw parallels between Chaz Lanier and Dalton Knecht. And Lanier's a good shooter, but they're not the same player. Not close.
No, they're basically the same role, which is like it's your top bucket getter, right? So when you run offense, usually you're running it for Lanier. And obviously last year. But last year what they started to do was, you know what, just give it to Dalton and get the hell out of the way. And that's not Chaz Lanier. He's a catch and shoot guy. And I think he's getting a little bit bumped and learning what the SEC is about. And it's a different level for him. And I think they're a little frustrated with him too. He needs to be tougher, frankly. So he was leading the country in 3-point shooting. He's still like right up there. But yeah, they need someone else. They need like Darlingstone, DeBar, somebody else to hit some. They need Meshack also, who, by the way, is again like Meshack and Ziegler. I don't know that I've seen two players defensively in college basketball better than those two. They're incredible. But Meshack, when you're on the wing and you get the ball swung to you and you're all alone, like at this point in your career, you have to shoot it, man.
Yep.
You have to. And he's not. And so, and I just don't know if that's going to change. But they just seem light a scorer at this point, unless they can find someone else.
So Vanderbilt, kind of rounding this whole discussion up. We know Tennessee's going to be in the tournament. Where they end up seeding wise, we'll see. Vanderbilt, how are we feeling about the rest of their journey through the SEC, the prospects of being a tournament team, and how dangerous they could be come tournament time?
Well, I'm doing my bracket as we speak. The bracket will come out tomorrow on The Athletic. And I have Vanderbilt now. Let me look. As my overall 33rd seed in the tournament, which in other words, I have them as a 9, but almost as an 8 at this point. Some Vanderbilt fans would say, wait a minute, just beat Tennessee, just beat Kentucky. And you know what? It's a fair point to make. They could be higher than that. Right now, they're in pretty good shape. Now, this league can
chew you up,
get
spit you out,
man.
Yep.
Yeah, so you got to make sure you win like the games, and they won at LSU. They beat so you got to make sure you win the games, those rare games where you're clearly the better team. You have to. I still think they're going to have to steal a couple games that we wouldn't expect them to win to make sure that they're safe. But right now, yeah, those wins are going to look really good when the committee convenes in a few weeks.
615-737-1025. Our phone number. The Rob Rant coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game.
Don't make me angry.
Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
It's been so effective, but again, Juergens is in there, really short snap there. Nice job by Hurts picking it up, but nothing you can do there.
I think Washington jumped. Frankie Luvu jumped over both lines. That was like Air Jordan.
It is that time of the day. Time for the Rob Rant here on the program. We'll take your thoughts, 615-737-1025. Joe, a lot of watching football that took place yesterday. Look, I was as invested as anybody in the Kansas City-Buffalo game. I wanted Buffalo to win. I'm tired of watching Kansas City win football games. Having said that, when the game was over, like I wasn't like legitimately mad or upset. It's just like, oh, well, that stinks. Buffalo lost and Kansas City's going back to the Super Bowl. And I really have no interest in the Super Bowl, so I guess that stinks too. There's really only one time yesterday where I was visibly angry and wanted to punch my television screen watching football being played yesterday. And it was this ridiculous back and forth in the second half of the NFC title game near the goal line when Philadelphia was lining up to do this stupid brotherly shove, tush push, whatever you want to call it. And Washington kept jumping offside and flying over the top of the line. You had the officials getting on the microphone. If this behavior continues, we're going to award a touchdown for Philadelphia. So-and-so has been warned, and they're going to get an unsportsmanlike foul coming up. I'm like, the play where they eventually scored on the tush push took about like 5 minutes of real time to execute because they couldn't get the snap off because Washington kept trying to time the jump and jump offside. It set football back 1,000 years yesterday. I thought that was the dumbest sequence I've ever seen. I don't know what you do about this stupid tush push because it's all the rage now. It was just Philadelphia, and now everybody else is doing it. Like, you know, the Packers do it where they don't even use Jordan Love. Like, they motion Tucker Kraft in, and he does it. Buffalo did it all game long yesterday with Josh Allen trying to run off the left guard, which apparently a nice scouting report by Kansas City because they stopped that a couple of times.
The left cheek doesn't work.
It doesn't work on that one, apparently. I don't know what you do about it. You know, a lot of people are really mad at it from Philadelphia's standpoint because, I mean, it does look like they're in an illegal formation every time because their two guards in the center like have their head directly across the neutral zone. So I don't know what you do about it. I just know that debacle yesterday to eventually get to like a half an inch touchdown that they scored legitimately pissed me off. Like I was ready to throw something at my television by the time we got to the end of that tush push nonsense.
I think it's jump the shark. I think this might be the inflection point where it's like, you know what? Get rid of this crap. Does anybody remember the 2005 Notre Dame USC game?
Yes.
You do?
I do.
I'm very impressed.
I remember where I was watching it.
I mean, that was a great game. That was the game that got Charlie by almost beating USC. Charlie Weiss got like the biggest contract in college football, like, you know, because he was a genius.
Yes.
But it was an incredible game. And for anybody who doesn't remember, Matt Leinart, USC was the top of the sport at that point. Matt Leinart got in and Reggie Bush pushed him. And there was all this controversy about the Bush push, right? And I think about that, and I think about now what everybody is doing with this thing. And I think they need to just outlaw pushing you being able to shove your – and I know then people will be like, well, what about like at the goal line, your backs in, what, an offensive lineman can't smash in there and knock him in? I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's some nuance with this, but I'm with you. That was a great moment of like, okay, this is dumb. Now, I will defend Washington a little bit, Robbie, because they had the one play where he just maybe they did it twice. But then Philly is trying to, like, why are you at the inch line trying to
draw them off?
Hard count them? Like, just score. Just score.
No, look, I'm not saying
why are you hard counting
I wasn't
them?
Like totally upset at Washington, but it's like, I mean, after about the third offside, I was like, oh my God, get this over with. It took forever. Like
I didn't know about the awarding the team.
I didn't either. Like, I've never heard of this. And the way that the official phrased it, like, if this behavior continues, it's like, shut up, dude. We're not here to talk about you and being some babysitter out there.
Giving them the business down there.
We got it. I'm with you. Like, hopefully this will create some sort of rule where you can just get rid of this thing. Because quite frankly, like, I don't really want to see this be like some league-wide sensation now of, all right, it's 4th and 1. Let's get this big dog pile in the middle of the field and see if you can sort through who got the first down and who didn't. It just doesn't sound fun to me.
Yeah. Well, and I'm actually surprised that the play, as it's become so widespread, isn't resulting in more. It's a dangerous play,
Yeah,
man.
I agree.
And I know if it's, football, you're going to have injuries and big hits and all that stuff, but like that, I think that, it's an ugly, boring, dangerous play. And I think we've seen enough of it, I mean, and look, it's a great option for teams when they have the short yardage, if you've got the right personnel. I get why you want to do it. Like you said, like the Lions have gone with their tight end doing that, I get it. And then you can do some other things off it, which has been kind of cool at times, a little jump pass or whatever, but yeah, I think that I think this is something that has to really be looked at now.
I don't even really blame Philadelphia for doing it because, I mean, they've been when you're allowed to do it, then why not take advantage of it? Like, Jalen Hurts could squat like 600 pounds or whatever it is. So, like, I get it. You get him low, it's hard to bring him down. So I don't blame Philadelphia for doing it. That I just, with the biggest game to this point in the year, you're in conference championship weekend. Like, how many tush pushes did Buffalo run yesterday? There's a lot.
Yeah.
They ran a lot of them. And then you get that debacle where, like, even you could sit, like, you could feel like Brady in the middle of it. And I know Brady has his faults calling games, but even he was just like, oh my, like, what are we doing? Like, what's going on here? Like, I would hope with the national audience, like everybody locked into your product, that people in the NFL are talking today, like, yeah, we might need to do something about this tush push this offseason.
Yeah, I think I hope so. I mean, I think it really needs to be discussed. So a texture says there's a rule that says you can't assist the runner, but it hasn't been called since like 1991. So there's still, like, you can't pull. That is definitely still enforced. But yeah, the pushing is okay, and I'm just, but again, then it's like, then it gets into, I don't know that I want it taken away that, like, when a running back is struggling at the goal line, that, you can't have offensive linemen come in and, you know what I mean? That's also hard to enforce sometimes. So there's a lot to talk about, but someone says, for all of us who love 3 yards in a pile of dust type football, we say just grow up. Well, again, I mean, I thought it was fun at first with this.
It'd be a lot more fun if it was 3 yards.
Yeah. And it also, with the Eagles, it was Jason Kelce too. Like the Kelce and a Hurts combo, hard to stop. But yeah, that whole sequence was like, please stop it.
I mean, it got to the point, after about the third offside, where I was just like, you know what? Just keep jumping. I want to see if they actually do award them a touchdown. Like, is the official actually going to be like, all right, that's enough. Touchdown, Philadelphia.
Right. And of course, in a 55-23 game, it doesn't end up mattering. But what if that's a close game and you have an awarded touchdown?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not good.
Unbelievable. 615-737-1025. Our phone number. Corey Curtis from News 2 will join us coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, sponsored by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. We head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Corey Curtis from News 2, brought to you by Tennessee Men's Clinic. Corey, good morning. How are you?
Well, I will say this. None of our teams lost this weekend, so congratulations to everyone.
Yeah, way to go, guys. Nice job.
Yeah.
Way to go. Good stuff.
NFC North just stays out of it altogether.
You know what?
Yeah.
You
We'll
guys
just set
got
this one out. We'll play in the Duke's Mayo Bowl instead.
Well, Corey, let's start there. Let's start with last night's game, Kansas City and Buffalo. It's another classic between those two with the same result. Kansas City punches their ticket. They're back in the Super Bowl, taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. What did you make of that game last night and conference championship weekend as a whole?
Well, I was a little surprised with last night because I thought that would be a lower scoring game than it was. So I was surprised to see both teams put as many points on the board as I did. Look, I know everybody loves to complain about officiating with Patrick Mahomes and with the Chiefs. They don't win all of these games because of officiating. They win all these games because, number one, they don't beat themselves, and they make the critical plays in absolutely the critical moments. Look, every time there's a call that goes the Chiefs' way, people go crazy now because they're looking for it. There are calls that go both ways all the time. I mean, the referees did not make Dalton Kincaid drop that pass at the end of the game, although there was a flag that got picked up, so that's kind of questionable. But, those are the plays the Chiefs make, and that's the play that the Bills didn't make. And that's why they're the Chiefs, and that's why they've won 12 one-score games this year, because they get it done at the most important moments. And they stay healthy, which is pretty amazing. They just do.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, look, the Chiefs deserve the credit here. This is not a ref show. We have talked about it. The spot. That's one of those. I just don't understand how that ref on the one side determined how. And I'm watching it on TV right now, the replay that they could be
Can one
so
of them
different.
see the ball and one of them can't, though? I mean, that's the question I've got, because it's where the ball is, not where Josh Allen's head is, where his back is, where his feet are. It's where the ball is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not.
They missed the call. Let's be honest about the
Yeah,
conversation. It was a terrible call.
It's like, you don't think they missed it? I think they missed it too.
I don't know if they missed it or not. I don't think there was anything definitive for me to say, oh my gosh, I look, it could have gotten marked a first down. It didn't get marked a first down. I didn't have an angle or a view that told me that the ball was clearly across the line. All right.
Okay.
I didn't. And I understand the people who think that it did, but I don't know how anyone could say it clearly did. I don't.
Okay, well, maybe you'll agree with me on Sean McDermott and the coaching malpractice that is not being talked about enough, which is not talked about enough in general, with this chasing points, gambling for points early in games.
I agree with
it's
you.
Just completely idiotic, and it changed. If you go back and it just makes the correct choices, then the Chiefs' field goal at the end ties the game. It does not go ahead.
You can't chase points early. I mean, you just can't. You got to take the points that are there. I mean, look, you're playing one of the best defenses in the entire NFL. All right. So the 2-point conversion is going to be more difficult than ever. And like I said, it's too early to be chasing, because you see over and over again how those points add up and come back to bite you. Now, I guess if they get those 2-pointers and win the game, we're like, oh, that was a genius move. But I agree with you. I don't chase points until at least late in the third, depending on the number of possessions in the football game. I thought that was way too early to be giving points away. You have to. The other thing, James Cook, I mean, the guy averaged like 8.6 yards per touch, and like he's not on the field at the end of the game, so DJ Johnson can be out there. I'm like, what are you doing? And on that last drive for the Bills, their first down play that Johnson got dropped for like a 3-yard loss, that run was open. There was a crease opening up on the outside. If he just hits it for the sideline like it's designed, he's going to get a nice gain on that play. Instead, he gave up on his blocking and lost 3 yards. I think James Cook turns that into a nice gain.
Yeah, it's really befuddling why he was not on the field at that time. So switching gears to the Titans, we've talked about the Borgonzi part of all this. What as you kind of sift through the wreckage of last week and the comments that Borgonzi has made and how we view the power structure now, what do you make of that hire, the way that you think it could shake out here with him now as the general manager, and now the infrastructure that they've started to place around him with some of the guys that they're now hiring in the assistant GM roles and in scouting spots?
Okay, well, number one, I'm going to upset people because I don't have the same outrage as everyone else. Okay, I think Mike Borgonzi is the general manager and he is in charge of personnel. Can Chad Brinker ultimately overrule him? Yes, he can, but I wouldn't expect him to do that in this scenario unless he was trying to trade A.J. Brown away, but he's already gone, so I'm not too worried about that. So I think for me, and the people can tell me to shut up, and in my opinion doesn't matter. I don't care. Mike Borgonzi doesn't take that job unless he's absolutely sure he's in charge of personnel, and he is, okay? And I think, on paper, because we got to see how it works out, because Chris Ballard came from the Chiefs, and that's not working out too well up in Indy. But on paper, it looks like, regardless of how you got there, you've got a better candidate in that job. Now he's got to execute it. They're changing their front office. And when you just look at the 4 teams who played yesterday, and, yes, you can point to the Eagles and say, well, they didn't draft A.J. Brown and they didn't draft Saquon Barkley. Well, they traded a first-round pick for A.J. Brown, so he's a first-round pick for them, and then they supplemented with Saquon Barkley. But the rest of their players, Jalen Hurts, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, the big guys on the defensive line, Lane Johnson, they drafted all those guys. And the Chiefs, they supplement with DeAndre Hopkins, who barely even plays now. But most of their guys are guys they all drafted. I mean, it's,
the Eagles found Jordan Mailata in the 7th round of the draft. It's unbelievable.
Well, yeah, okay, but they draft, and every team's got those guys. The Titans have had those guys. I mean, Cortland Finnegan was a 7th round pick for the Titans back in the day.
I'm just saying that highlights how well that team has drafted.
Yeah. Yes, but they draft everywhere. I mean, they don't have a lot of misses. They don't have a lot of Andre Dillards, and they got rid of him. Okay. They've got.
They found a sucker to take him.
Yeah, they did.
Who was that? I forget.
For him, absolutely. But I mean, you can go up and down. The Washington's better because of how they drafted. I mean, they got better because of the players they brought in, and so the Titans are going to have to draft better. And you've got 2 former GMs with the new GM, in the front office to try to restructure things and figure it out. And I think they're right. I mean, I think, adding draft capital and building from the base up is what this team has to do if they want to be built for success. And it could be painful for another year or two, but if you want to be good, you've got to add a core of good young players that disappeared, frankly, over a 3-year span. And they've got to figure out a way to do that. And, whether it's trading away assets that you've got on your roster, which can be painful because you don't necessarily have guys to replace them, or trading down in the draft, which sounds like something that they're very open to doing.
Okay, I have to throw this hypothetical at the Bears fan. Right now, Corey.
Yeah.
You have Caleb Williams, or you can just have a free swap and Jaden Daniels as your quarterback of the future instead of Caleb Williams. What are you choosing?
Well, I think I'd be crazy not to say Jaden Daniels right now based on the results so far.
Good job. I was worried that you were actually going to say what I've seen some people say, which is, no, Caleb.
Ben Johnson's in there now.
Well, yeah, I think it's going to be good for Caleb. I think he's going to be good, but good. I'm with you 100%. That's the correct answer, Corey.
No, I mean, look, I still think Caleb Williams has a ton of talent. I think this year was disappointing, but I think the whole team I think that record with the roster that they have was among the most disappointing in the NFL. I think there were more good players to win games with there. And his season in particular was disappointing. Despite the fact that a lot of his numbers were okay. But when you see Jaden Daniels and his calmness in the pocket and ability to make plays, I mean, look, I continue to say I never saw that coming for him, especially this quickly. You have to be blown away with just how good he was. I thought they would win yesterday because of how good he's been, because Jalen Hurts was not that the first 2 weeks, whether the coach had the cuffs on him or not. That was a different Jalen Hurts we saw yesterday.
All right, Corey, I feel like I'd be remiss if I did not ask you this question. You who are,
awesome,
as we know, the most popular man in Duval. What do you make away this whole coaching search boiled down for the Jags?
You know what? When that happened, I was thinking of the time when Joe asked, what was your question about the AFC South? Like, who's the most
dysfunctional?
Yeah, who's the most, but whatever it was. And it's just, the Colts keep their bad people around, and then the Jaguars. It's got to be Duval. I mean, 4 winning seasons in 20 years. And, the mess that they've made of this coaching search, I can't believe Liam Cohn will step into it. The next thing you'll know, they'll trade for Will Levis, because then he played for him in Kentucky.
He did.
Hey, man, make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, so
that was his good season, was with Liam Cohn as his OC.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. So, I wish Liam Cohn the best. I'm sure he'll make a fine OC in 2 years when he's looking for a job.
Shout out to Trent Baalke. Good stuff.
Yeah. Trent Baalke is like, he just leaves death and destruction in his wake. He's like a tsunami of losing.
Corey Curtis joins us every Monday morning at 8 o'clock, presented by Tennessee Men's Clinic. Corey, great stuff, brother. Appreciate you taking time to be with us.
I just have one thing to say.
Okay.
Duval.
Yes. Thank you very much. Beautiful. Corey Curtis, we'll take your reaction to what Corey had to say. 615-737-1025. Our phone number. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Appreciate Corey Curtis from News 2 for being with us in the last segment. I figured he'd get a kick out of the Jacksonville Jaguars coaching search stuff. Corey, a hated man down in Duval.
Yes. Next time I'd like a little more Duval. I mean, he didn't give us the full, you got to give it a little
really
more.
Lean in.
You got to linger a little bit more on the Duval.
They did make quite the mess of that coaching search. But hey, they ended up with who I think might be a good coach, maybe.
I will say that, like, the Tampa Bay people, I mean, not being reachable is that's wild.
It's not good.
Right? That's crazy. But, like,
have you guys been calling?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that is lame. However,
don't get a lot of good service in Jacksonville.
Yeah. But, like, everything else that happened about it, it's a head coaching job.
I agree.
I mean, he didn't want to take it because they had a GM that no one wants to work with. They fired the GM. So, like, and there's nothing wrong with him doing what he did. It's just
just answer the phone.
Answer the phone. Yes. Answer the phone, Liam.
Liam, I can't get a hold of you.
I got his number. If you guys, I can put that on the text line, www.countyhunter.com. You guys can text him.
You got Urban Meyer's.
Wish him good luck.
Urban Meyer's number. Send him a subscription.
I do.
Hey, Urban. I'd like to offer you a subscription to The Athletic if you're willing to pay for it.
Every once in a while, they text me, hey, that mock draft by Brugler looks really interesting. Could you mind sending me sending me your password? Yeah. Thanks, Urban.
Taking your thoughts on our text line, 615-737-1025, our phone number. The Shedeur Sanders part of this. So Shedeur Sanders over the weekend was at the East-West Shrine Bowl. He met with the media, met with the Tennessee Titans, and detailed some of that. Apparently, Deion FaceTiming him in the meeting, and the Titans said, hey, go ahead, pick that phone up. Let's talk. Get Deion in here. So apparently a nice chat with Deion and Shedeur, and Shedeur Sanders talked about how he's the most guaranteed risk in the draft, and he would love to be a Titan. He'd be thankful to be a Titan with the number 1 overall pick, which, of course, got all the headlines going this weekend. I said it earlier in the show, Joe, like this is kind of the first wave of all of the comments and speculation and spin zone off what people say around draft time. And we're going to hear it from now until the time the draft rolls around of, Brian Callahan said his first impression of Shedeur Sanders was really, really good. And I guess that now means that he's the favorite to go number 1 overall. And I said it, take everything said about draft prospects, particularly when you're dealing with the number 1 pick, with a grain of salt. I'm not saying the Titans don't like Shedeur Sanders. I'm sure they do. I'm sure he made a really good first impression. I watched a lot of his press conference this weekend, and I found him to be extremely likable. I enjoyed his answers. So, yeah, I have no doubt that he made a good first impression. I have no doubt that Cam Ward will make similar impressions with the Titans. I just would encourage people to take the public comments on what the Titans and others say for a grain of salt before the draft comes around.
Yeah, they mean virtually nothing. I do like, by the way, that Sanders and Ward are like working out together and like talking. Yeah. No, I'm generational. No, I'm generational. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it just doesn't, like, Brian Callahan's not going to say, I didn't really like him too much. Also, kind of questioning him as a player. Thanks for asking. I mean, you're going to say positive things about people. And like you said, maybe completely, I don't doubt that it's true what he said. But also, what does that mean? What does that actually mean? It does not mean, it really doesn't give you any sort of information at all about what they may do. A lot of this is just really.
It's interesting to me though, like the more that people talk about these two guys, Ward and Sanders, like there's a pretty wide variance of opinion in terms of like how good they are and how ready they are. Like there are some people that don't feel like either one of them are going to be good NFL quarterbacks. Like there are some people who don't think Shedeur Sanders is a first rounder, much less a number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
And then TD, I think is pretty high on both of them. He's not alone. Like there are some people that are like, oh yeah, like you'd be crazy not to pick Cam Ward, number 1 overall.
Yeah.
If you're the Titans. It's there's variance every year, but it feels like it's pretty wide with these two at quarterback.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I wonder if it has something to do with that bad QB class.
22?
Yeah, just because really up until that point, I can't recall. I'm sure there was some, whatever, 1997, whatever, but I can't recall a year like that where there wasn't at least a guy or two that was worthy of going at the top of the draft. Now, some of those years where they were quote unquote worthy, they busted badly, but that was a year where you're like, well, they're still going to go to the top of the draft. And they didn't. And it turned out to be like they just weren't at all starting quality quarterbacks. So I don't know. I just wonder if anytime there's a year where it's not, like last year was a great year, right? Everybody's like, oh, these guys are incredible. And I think it could, May, Williams, and Daniels and Nix could all end up being like very good to great for a long time in this league. So maybe it's like the fact that there was this bad, I'm totally spitballing here, but there was a bad draft of quarterbacks, and then we're coming off this great one, and people are just skeptical because of that. But I do think also you're right that there's just a variance of people who have actually really closely looked at these players. I haven't. I won't. But I'm like with Nick Suss. I watched a lot of them in college, and I think Cam Ward is like 5 years from now, we might be just blown away by some of our takes, including mine about, because he might be great, man. I'm arguing with my son today. He's like, Cam Ward is going to be Mahomes. You realize that, right? People are saying the same stuff about Mahomes. Yeah. I'm like, I don't think he's going to be Mahomes. But, man, I don't know.
It's a heck of a bar.
Yeah, but,
I know what you mean, though. Yeah.
But you know what? He could. If he refined everything and took out the jumping out of bounds and throwing across his body in the middle of the field and some of the stuff that I've seen him do, I'm like, dude, you can't do that. He makes throws sidearm and that are wow, no doubt.
It's interesting. Like I can remember, I think off the top of my head, and there may be more, but off the top of my head, I think I can remember 2 draft classes in recent memory where the quarterbacks were just not at all exciting. Obviously 2022, which we've talked about a lot, where Kenny Pickett got taken at 20th overall. And then 2013, I think EJ Manuel was like the first quarterback taken in 2013. And he got taken at I don't know. It was somewhere like high teens, maybe, to Buffalo. I'm looking it up right now. Yeah, 16 to Buffalo. He was the first quarterback taken that year.
Okay, good.
And he
good
went
recall.
16 to Buffalo. And then I think Geno Smith was the second quarterback and he got taken second round. So those are the 2 draft classes where it just kind of felt like everybody looked at the quarterback and said, this is not very good. I still don't think this one is that. I would be stunned if the first quarterback is Cam Ward and he goes, 15th. I don't think that's going to happen.
I agree.
But I just, Cam Ward is another one. There are some people that watch Cam Ward play and they're like, yeah, he's going to be great at the NFL level. What's the hesitancy on this? And I think there are others that look at him and say, well, some of the decision-making sometimes a little questionable. He's a little raw. Maybe it's going to take a while. And, we mentioned the article from Blake Bedingfield at paulkowarski.com, right? He doesn't have a first-round grade on these guys. It's on Sanders. It's interesting. Charles Robinson came on with us a few weeks ago, said there are some teams that don't have a first-round grade on either guy, Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah. That to me means something. That's, again, those teams could be wrong.
Yeah, for sure.
But clearly, this is not clearly, top of the draft QB situation. But yeah, I've said that I like Sanders better, and I get also the knocks. It's he doesn't have his measurables aren't fantastic at all. I just value accuracy, which I think he is pretty freaking good in that way. But no, I think that I'm with you. I'll be shocked if someone doesn't take them, if not one, I think both of them in the top 10. And you know what? The teams who take them may end up being happy about it.
I did have this thought though yesterday. It's the same thought I'm sure every team that doesn't have a Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes is going through right now, with the exception of Cincinnati, who can't get out of their way in other ways. But it's I looked it up yesterday because I was like, man, so it feels like Mahomes has been around for about 45 years at this point. How old is he? Oh, he's 29. Okay, cool. Josh Allen, he's 28. Okay, so these guys aren't going anywhere anytime soon. That's what you got in front of you. If
Yeah.
you're the Titans and everybody else in the AFC.
You need someone in the NFC to somehow trade for one of them.
Exactly.
Good luck.
615-737-1025. Our phone number. More of your thoughts on Shedeur Sanders and the quarterbacks in this draft coming up next. We'll take your thoughts on conference championship weekend as well. We'll get back into that later this hour. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby and Rexrode sponsored by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jared Stillman texting my personal text line, Joe.
Oh, goody.
Says, outside of TD, almost no variance on Sanders. Most people don't think he's the top of the draft quarterback. Talks about Matt Miller, PFF, having him at 44. Blake Bedingfield, second-round grade. So it seems to me most people don't think he's that good. I said, your boy Mel Kiper got him at number 4 on his big board.
And what about me?
Yeah.
Well, my analysis doesn't count. I got him number 1 over Cam Ward.
Yeah. And still he said, Mel is hedging his bets, and I'm disgusted by it. There you go.
Yeah, there's no way that he could have a different opinion.
Mel Kiper got him number 4 on the big board. I'm just throwing it out there.
I mean, Mel's the GOAT, isn't he? Mel's the OG.
He's got Cam Ward number 5. Travis Hunter 1, Abdul Carter 2, Mason Graham 3, DT out of Michigan.
Interesting.
And then Sanders at 4.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, Mason Graham, good prospect in the interior of the defensive line. Yeah, I don't know. Look,
that's who the Titans should take number 1 overall.
Hey,
the interior D lineman.
Sweat and Graham together? Come on.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to move that middle at all.
By the way, someone on the text line, speaking of D tackle, someone on the text line earlier was like, you guys can't be serious that you don't think Simmons is trying to get himself to New England. I don't think congratulating an assistant coach who's joining Vrabel's staff is like going to usher, is going to like convince Borgonzi to trade him.
As I said a couple of weeks ago, I stand by it now. If Jeffrey Simmons approached the Titans this offseason and said, my God, will you please get me out of here? I don't know that I could sit here and blame him, right? Like, it's been pretty bad football around here for a while. So
couldn't blame him.
I don't know that I could
probably
blame him.
say, yeah, I know what we can do there, buddy.
Exactly. Like, so again, having said that, I don't view that Jeffrey Simmons is sitting here trying to tweet his way to New England.
Yeah. I'm sure look, most players, would like to win. Of course, New England isn't.
That's where you want to go right now.
Necessarily that, but the Vrabel thing,
sure,
you get it. I mean, you love playing for Vrabel,
Yeah,
some guys do. On the quarterback thing, I think the higher ceiling for Cam Ward, I buy that. I do buy that. I mean, I think that like Cam Ward, it's crazy to me that he started his college career at Incarnate Word.
Yeah,
like you watch that guy, throw the ball, and you're like, how?
Everybody knows that's where you go to develop good quarterbacks.
Yeah, like how was he as a high schooler not more of a coveted prospect? But no, I mean, look, I think there's more. The traits are more eye popping with him. There's no doubt.
Yes,
right.
I would agree.
But it's just again that doesn't. I mean, you want eye popping traits. There's a guy who plays the position of quarterback who lives in Nashville who has some of those too. Yeah. And I'm not trying to compare them as players. I'm just saying there's plenty of traits players. Go look in Indianapolis. That doesn't matter.
Right. Like there's more to play in that position than just the traits. And look, you can play that position effectively in the NFL without having some of those traits.
Well,
right?
That's the thing. And that's where you get into some of the people who, I always bring it to Cousins because he's simply not talented enough to play in the NFL. He is not physically gifted enough to play in the NFL, except the quick decisions, the accuracy of the football, and look what it's done for his career.
Right.
He has hundreds of millions in the bank because of it. And that's where when I look at Shedeur Sanders in that way, that's, to me, those are the two most important things. You want other stuff too. But I watched Jaden Daniels play, and he's seeing it fast, and he's getting it out, and he's putting the ball on a spot. And of all the other things that matter about quarterback, I'm taking those things 1 and 2 in whatever order, and then you build it out from there. And that's where I think Sanders is better.
Yeah, like Sanders, it's hard to ignore. Like I realize, we have this discussion a lot. Not every league, not every schedule, particularly nowadays in college football, is created equal. So I understand all that. It's hard for me to ignore a 74% completion percentage. Like, that's pretty darn impressive.
Yeah.
74% completion percentage and 8.7 an attempt this year for Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah. And obviously he had a tremendous talent. He had a good receiving core in general. But he had tremendous talent the other end of his passes in Hunter, he had terrible offensive line play. And both years at Colorado, he was running for his life. And yeah, watching him play, I felt like the ball was up. He had the bad pick at Nebraska this year.
Yep.
But for the most part, like the ball was out and it was in the right spot, man, over and over with him. Also, if you go back and look at the throw he made, I know it's one play in a game, but go back and watch the Hail Mary, which wasn't really a Hail Mary, but I mean, it was, I guess you'd call it that. But the throw he made to against Baylor in that game, it's seriously one of the most insane throws I've ever seen. So it's not just like some weak-armed guy who can get it, can throw it through the tire 10 times in a row.
No, he's got some really good ability. Is it franchise quarterback number 1 overall pick worthy? Like that's going to be the determination here. It's like when you get through all the tape and look, I'm not saying the in-person evaluation is not important because it is, right? Like they're going to meet with Shedeur Sanders. They've already met with him once. I'm sure that they'll meet and talk with him again. And, they'll do the same with Cam Ward. All that stuff's important, getting to know the player and the person and the habits and all that stuff. But like when you look at the tape, if you're Brian Callahan and Mike Borgonzi and all the decision makers for the Titans, when you get to the end of it and you shut it off, do you say, yeah, like we feel like that guy can get us into the conversation moving forward in the AFC with some of the other top quarterbacks in the league? It's almost unfair to make the Mahomes thing at this point just because, and he's been in the league 7 years. He's to his 5th Super Bowl. So that part of it is what it is. But unfortunately for you and for everybody else in your conference, that and Josh Allen, I mean, what we saw last night is what you have to go through. And you got to find a path to get there. And that's not even accounting for, Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson, who are also in this conference.
Yeah, and then or a guy like Justin Herbert, who has tremendous talent, or a guy like C.J. Stroud, who pretty freaking good.
Is in your division,
by the way. Yeah.
Just wait till Will Levis gets traded to Jacksonville. He's working with Liam Cohen. Have him to deal with too.
There you go. That's a very good point. Yeah, and that's where it's like, apart from judging the prospect, philosophically, is it like, do you feel almost more like you need to try to swing for the fences for a quarterback? Because if that's the case, then again, I would say if you're picking a QB, then go with Cam Ward. Because I do think that, like, I think that there's probably a higher level if it all came together for him. Just because, again, I think he just has. I mean, he has more arm talent.
Yeah.
Arm talent, as in strength and some of the throws he can make. Again, what's the most important arm talent? I would argue that it's accuracy. But philosophically, if you're a GM in the AFC and you don't have one of those guys, is it more important to take as many swings at quarterback or shoot high and go high risk, high reward?
That's a good question.
Or is it more important to, we're never going to have quarterbacks like those guys. It's not going to happen. But Jalen Hurts is in the Super Bowl, and he's not a quarterback like those guys. He's a very good quarterback. But look at that team. Let's build the team and hope that we can get a good to very good quarterback. Build a great team. That team is playing for a championship.
I mean, who had some pretty good arm talent that could be available for the Titans this offseason?
Oh, boy.
That has already been mentioned once on this show by Nick Suss earlier. I mean, Zach Wilson.
Oh, sure.
A lot of traits.
He does. Hey, he does have traits. He does have traits.
Remember when he made the throw like off platform at the combine and people were like, "What?" Or his pro day? You're like, "Did you see that throw by Zach Wilson?"
Oh my goodness!
Like this one crossbody throw that he made. It's like, oh my goodness! That was Mahomes-esque from Zach Wilson.
Hey, I mean, is there not like a Jets tax at this point that you just have to, right? A Jets asterisk with anybody who went through that crap?
I said it earlier. I had not thought about it until Nick Suss brought it up with us in the 7 o'clock hour. But the QB room of Zach Wilson and Will Levis may be what we all need.
Wilson Levis. Sounds like a 80s rock band, like soft pop band.
You nailed it.
Thank you. I totally blew that joke.
737-1025. Our phone number. Final thoughts on the quarterback front for the Titans for the day. We'll also look ahead to what a Super Bowl looks like that I am just totally not excited about at all. Kansas City and Philadelphia after conference championship weekend yesterday. All that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in. Final segment of the day. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joe, the Super Bowl set. Kansas City, again. And Philadelphia, again.
Yeah.
I kind of look at this right now, Joe, and I said it last night. I have a ton of respect and appreciation for what the Chiefs are doing. I really do. Like, it's unbelievable what they're doing. That word is used too much in sports, unbelievable, but it kind of fits here. Like, it's crazy
Yes.
what the Chiefs are doing. At the same time, I have like zero interest in the Super Bowl whatsoever. Like I cannot for the life of me get excited about the Chiefs and Eagles matchup. I just can't. That's just me. I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for the masses at large, but personally, I don't know that I've been less excited about a Super Bowl in my entire life than this one.
Wow, no kidding. Well, there are definitely I would have been more excited. I would have been more like Bills, Eagles would have been a lot more exciting. The Bills finally getting a chance. Maybe they can finally win one after losing 4 in a row. And, obviously a long-suffering fan base, and that matchup would be good. I think Commanders getting there it's almost would have felt wrong to me. I mean, it would have been fun. But, like they shouldn't be ready yet. That's not how it's supposed to go.
Right.
And I think that they've got more runs in them in years to come with Jaden Daniels at quarterback. I'm not unexcited. I mean, it's not my pick. I think most of America was rooting for the Bills just to change it up.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I think at this point, what was the number? Is it 17 in a row? Is that what you
So they've won 12 consecutive one-score games this year, and I think 17 in a row overall.
It
was 16
insane.
straight yesterday.
It's insane. And like they deserve all the praise, and again, we'll see if they can finish the deal. If they do, I mean, there's a reason no one's ever done it before. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Because think about like you have to make these deep runs every time, like think about all that goes into it just to repeat, which is very hard. To three-peat is it would be incredible. I do think it's going to be a great game. I mean, I'm excited for it. I'll be excited for it by the time it comes. But yeah, there would have been better matchups. I mean, look, I'm excited that we know that, well, we can't count on the possibility of the earth swallowing itself because the Lions aren't playing. Right?
Yes.
So like we should still exist as a planet after Super Bowl Sunday. Yes. So at least you have that. But yeah, there are other combinations that would have been more fun. I mean, but that was a really fun Super Bowl 2 years ago. 2 years ago?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
I mean,
2 years ago.
It was fun. I just think there's a lot of fatigue with this match. Now, look, it's the Super Bowl. The ratings are going to be through the roof. People are going to watch. We all know this. I was just pulling heavily for the Bills yesterday. Like, I do feel for Josh Allen to some degree. Like, and I'd throw Lamar Jackson into this mix too. Like, we talked about it when Buffalo and Baltimore played each other. Like, those are two teams that have been trying to break through in this conference and get there for a long time at this point, and nobody can get through Mahomes. They can't do it. And I asked the question Friday, like, are we just morons for picking against Kansas City in this game? And turns out probably, yeah, we are. Like, it just, but like at some point, I think somebody is going to beat them in the AFC, maybe at some point. But like, Josh Allen, he wasn't perfect yesterday. He did have some misses in the game. He got stuffed a couple times on the tush push, which we talked about earlier in the show. But by and large, like, I think he played well enough for them to win the game. And Kansas City, as they often do, just makes one or two more plays at the end, and that's why they're sitting here on the verge of their third consecutive Super Bowl.
Yeah,
his fourth.
Look, I mean, Patrick Mahomes. I think at times, like the MVP this year is going to be Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. It should be one of those two guys.
Yeah.
They're dynamic. They're incredible players. They had better years than Patrick Mahomes, but he is clearly the best. He's the best player in the NFL. And I think he's on his way to being the best quarterback of all time. And again, it's just like whatever is needed. Kenny the mailman called us in 6 o'clock hour. Whatever it is, okay. Well, then I'll become a runner in this game and just tear you apart with that. And he's just incredible, man. And I gotta say, this was a year to get them because they aren't a complete offense. This was a year to get them. What happens if Worthy takes a big step, which all of a sudden yesterday I'm like, uh-oh. And what happens if they get a true number one receiver in there again with Mahomes? I mean, they could be a lot more dominant than they are, and here they are 60 minutes from 3-peat.
Well, and think about this too. So they win his first one, and Tyreek Hill's on the team. So they have that number one guy, and then he leaves, and they've won these last two with, I'm not going to sit here and say like just a bunch of guys on offense because they have had Travis Kelce, and that's a big part of this.
Yeah.
But like the receiving core has not been especially impressive.
And Kelce now is slowing down.
And like, especially this year.
Yeah.
Now, granted, he just had 117 yards in a playoff game before this one. But like yesterday, he had 2 catches for 19 yards. And he did not have the same type of season that we're seeing from him that we've gotten accustomed to. But now their defense is elite. Like they've done it in different ways, which I think makes it even more impressive. Like even from last year to this year, like their defense was great last year too. They had Snead, and now they don't have Snead, and they're still an elite defense. Like it's pretty crazy the run that they're on.
It is,
and the different ways they've done it.
And you know, when you get a coordinator who's like a lifer coordinator who's not a threat to leave as a head coach, and he's that good, boy, that's awfully good. You have your head coach who's the offensive genius, and you got probably the best D coordinator in the NFL, and he's cool. He'll just stay there.
I will say, like, as much as I'm not interested in the Super Bowl, I do think Philadelphia has the best roster in the league. So what's going to matter more at the end of the day?
See, this segment has already got me a little bit more excited about the game.
Well, I'm glad.
I'm sorry you won't be watching.
I will not. I have other plans.
I'll send you some clips. Are you going to be on the scrambler? I'll send you
some
some
it might
clips.
Be. That does it for us.
Or teacups, I guess. The teacups?
The teacups. That does it for us today on the program. Chasing Big Joe coming up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.